Hello and welcome back to HIQA, Human Innovation Questions Answered, which is the Q&A format of the podcast. But because it's another traveling week ahead and I have a special announcement, we are doing one-man show only, and it's not about questions, it's about the announcement itself. I have started and founded a new startup that is called Succeed, and you can find everything about it on wearesucceed.com. As you would write it. So it's wearesucceed.com. And this episode is going a little bit into the background story of why I have founded this startup with a couple of people in the background and how we want to tackle the problem and what the problem is we want to solve. So that's going a little bit into this topic basically in this episode, and I'm using it a little bit to try to formulate what is the best way of explaining the startup and the purpose and what we're doing. So it's called Succeed, and the website is wearesucceed.com, and we are as well available on all social media platforms that are important to us, which is Facebook, obviously. Then we have an Instagram account, we have a LinkedIn account, and we are starting a YouTube channel as well, where we go more into leadership education and so on. So it's all about how do we enable everyone in the whole world to have free access to leadership education. We believe everyone in the world should have free access to leadership education. And that's because there's a problem in this world. Every one of us, most probably you, the listener as well, have had a leader that's holding you back. What if we turn this around, where we say the leader has learned how to lead people and is now a manager, and that's enabling people to grow, enabling organizations to flourish. Because we have seen it, and it's historically proven as well in a lot of cases that leaders are the limiting factor of innovation, we want to tackle this problem and say, we want to change the game. We want to build, in the end, it's going to be a platform to tackle this and say we provide free leadership education to everyone in the whole world and enable everyone to take that free leadership education, and therefore supporting people, and then people are basically leading people inside of organization, and organization will flourish. So that's the high level umbrella of all of it. So it's really about like, how can we build an ecosystem? And to be honest, I have no idea on details on how we are going to do that. We will figure that out on the way. Our goal is to reach 1 billion people until 2030. We want to educate 1 billion people until 2030, 1st of January 2030. So it's a lot. It's a huge ambition. There are a couple of very, very interesting people involved, and I'm really looking forward to partner up, to find investors, to look into how we can find this challenge and how we can build something that's bigger than everything I've ever thought of and everything I'm able to do alone. So I'm really dependent on a lot of people and a lot of engagement. And this is the starting point. It will take us a couple of years to get to a proper level. I'm fine with doing that. For me, it's really, I'm dedicating a lot of time, like I do with the podcast and other things in my life, to this, and I really mean it. For me, it's not about the money. For me, it's about how do we solve this problem in the best possible way as a community. So there's a lot of engagement going on. Go to wearesucceed.com and find out more. But let's go into the mission. We want to enable everyone in the whole world to have free access to leadership education. We will go a little bit into how do we do this and kind of understand how we at least foresee this moving forward. So we're starting very, very small. It's a bootstrapped startup, so it's no finance from the external world. It's basically a little bit of money to get things moving, and then we will figure it out. So we have decided to do that in 3 phases. Phase 1 is all about the foundation. It's about community. It's about enabling each other to have a conversation around these topics in events, in different podcasts, in educational webinars, where we start the conversation around leadership, what is the right way of leadership, because it's such a complex topic. And of course, I have talked in the past on the podcast and as well on different occasions about a leadership system I have built out, but it's not about my leadership system, because there are different versions and different ways of leadership education. And there's most probably, when it comes to leadership education, not the right way. So we need to find out, how do we cater for different cultures? How do we cater for different needs? How do we cater for individual problem solving with a platform thinking? So there will be a lot of possibilities for everyone who is interested in solving this problem to contribute and to join us in different ways. So that's the starting point, is really starting the foundation, which means understanding and listening to each other, having conversation, documenting these conversations, taking out from the conversation what helps the organization to grow and helps to build a platform going forward. We have a couple of ideas what could be different engagement opportunities, where we say, okay, I'm always talking about leading yourself is the first part, then how do you lead others is another part, how do you lead communities is another complexity level, and then it's as well, how do you lead organization? So these are basic foundational elements which we will test and prototype basically over the next couple of months, which is in a webinar style. It's a conversational webinar style where I try to bring most probably a couple of people in talking about different topics. It's not a real education, but I think a lot of people who have never had a formal leadership education, like I have had the possibility to get in a lot of different circumstances in my career, working in large corporate, you will get already a lot of out of that. So it's really going into these topics and understanding of how we can provide value straight away and look into what resonates, what doesn't resonate. It's really startup type thinking. And it's really understanding the base need and what are the different complexities people deal with. It's really all about providing leadership education to everyone. So there are different needs which we will tackle. Phase 2, which I foresee will be most probably from summer next year, which will be summer in 2023. We want to kind of open up the bigger digital ecosystem. So how do we build the digital ecosystem? What are the different components of the digital ecosystem? And really thinking like a platform. Maybe there's an app. Most probably there will be something like an app where you can do basic trainings, where you can engage with different people, where you can engage with the community, which we of course start from basically tomorrow on. It's more about, we need to find out what it is a scalable model, because if we want to go from, let's say my goal is having 1,000 people involved this year, which is October, November and December in 2022, and then scaling up to a couple of thousands over the next year, at least 1,000 at the end of the year, and then we have a good base and understanding of where are the needs that we can directly fulfill with the people that are involved in the ecosystem, and then build an ecosystem around it, which is a digital enhancer of the totality. It's that's one big piece, and then of course, because there as well need to be a funding and opportunity for either venture capital, we don't know yet, and or corporate sponsorships and so on. We as well want to build a corporate opportunity into the totality. So it's a digital ecosystem, digital platform that is enhanced by different partnership opportunities and a corporate angle as well. Because like I come from large corporate, there are a lot of educational possibilities in large corporates, but not all of them are used in the best possible way. So there will be as well an opportunity where we say the knowledge we gather from all the individual interactions and contacts and discussions we will have, and educational pieces as well, enable organizations as well to do that in a structured way to help people inside of organizations to develop and educate themselves. And then the phase 3, which we need to find out when this will be, is going to be the marketplace understanding. So how can we work with a lot of people that have the need of educational topics and a lot of providers that will support people in need with education? And of course, there are different things, and a promise from my side personally as well, there will be always everything what is required to be a good leader will be for free. And then, of course, because if we want to grow, if we want to reach the whole world, going to 1 billion people in 2030, that requires we need to as well get a little bit money involved into this. So it's really about how can we build a business and a business model that enables us to tackle this problem and enable everyone to have free educational content and engagement when it comes to leadership. And of course, there are different marketplace opportunities with a lot of players involved. And the problem, let's go back to the problem. Most probably, if you have worked in organizations, you have had it yourself. I have and was a leader, and I am a leader in organizations where I'm not always on top of my game. I know that I'm, let's say, a fairly okay-ish human leader because I've had a coaching education and had a lot of leadership educations on the go and have led different teams in different cultural environments. So I'm fairly okay with how I'm leading, but I'm still not every day on my game. So how can we build a solution that enables us to stay on top of our game if you are already leader? Another thing is leaders prevent innovation. And that's one of the biggest problems I see and have seen over the time. I've been working with and in large organizations, and if you have seen this yourself as well, you know that there sometimes comes a leader in front of you or 2 levels up, 3 levels up, 4 levels up, which is basically not leading the organization as a human leader. This person is leading in a way that is downgrading the whole organization. There's a lot of theories around this. One is the Peters principle, where you're getting promoted to a level where you're basically completely incompetent in what you're doing. The tricky thing is, historically, specifically for me coming from Germany, in Germany, the promotion in corporate is always the person that is doing the job best is getting promoted. That doesn't mean that this person is the best leader. We need to change this to say the best leader, who is the leader who is capable of leading the team, the people involved in that engagement, is getting the leadership role. And that's a huge problem, because if we take just a couple of stories, we have the Kodak example, where the digital photography was basically invented and was as well already discussed before it was properly out there. And Kodak, there was most probably 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 leaders who haven't seen that because it didn't fit into their worldview. And then they have rejected it. And today Kodak is a different company on a different level than they could have been and were before. Then we talk about Nokia, who has forgotten to jump on into the smartphone market, and they have been leading the game when it comes to mobile phones in the beginning. So there are always leaders involved to take decisions, to move ahead, to innovate or not innovate. And as well, on a personal development perspective, there are leaders who are holding you back because they're not supporting you because maybe you're smarter, maybe you have different worldviews, maybe you have a different background, and they only support people with the same background. So there's a lot of a big melting pot when it comes to problems, and that's exactly what we want to tackle. Imagine it would be a future where leaders are supporting people to grow, where leaders enable organizations to grow, and it's not because they get the power, it's because they believe in the people they work with. It's a completely different mind shift, specifically in the world where we are living on. We're in 2022 right now. We're living in a state which is kind of still pandemic, but post-pandemic. Organizations have changed over the last couple of years. Before it was very, very office dominant, large organizational style. Now it's way more fragmented, where people are working in organizations, they're working from home, they're working in different digital hybrid environments, and that is also a huge different demand on leadership. It's not about, I'm watching you every day on your desk on how you're delivering something. It's a completely leadership style required to say, how can I empower you to be successful in what you're doing and contributing to the wider perspective. And that really goes into all the different levels I have talked about. Leading yourself. There are a lot of people who are not confident in leading, and that's why they are holding the organization back. There are people who are just not skilled and or trained to lead other people, and therefore they are holding the organization back. There are a lot of leaders out there who are not good in working across boundaries, let's say across silos in organization. They're just focusing on their own silo, which is then leading communities. And then if you take the most complex level, there are a lot of problems and challenges when you lead a whole organization. And how do you enable a whole organization to move towards a specific direction and do that through an empowerment mechanism rather than you're the dictator? And I know it's different from culture to culture. So that's also something we want to find out is you are required to be a different leader in different countries and different cultural environments and different organizations as well. And in different stages of organizational developments even. So how do we cater leadership education to fulfill the need of the person that is in that leadership role right now and or wants to step into a new leadership role, going into a different environment, growing up, or maybe have never had a leadership role and preparing yourself into that direction. So that's, in a nutshell, what we want to figure out. It's an exciting journey. It starts on October 2022, 1st of October 2022. This will be published, I think, on Monday, which is on the 3rd of October 2022. So have a look at wearesucceed.com. I'm not doing commercials here because it's for free. I'm happy to do that. The promise is to build free education and enabling everyone in the whole world to get a free leadership education. That's the promise we're setting us up for, and we're trying to figure out how to do that. And if you want to reach out, if you want to help, if you want to contribute, if you want to partner, if you want to invest, I'm all up for having conversation with everyone who is interested in solving that problem. For me, it's really about we need to solve this problem to build successful companies that focus on solving the biggest challenges like climate change and so on in this world. And I believe that organizations are capable of doing that if we have the right leaders. So go to wearesucceed.com and engage with us as much as you want. We'd love to have discussions as well, arguments. If you don't like what we're doing, happy to discuss. Thank you very much for today's episode. It's a short one. It's a slightly different one. Going back to normal episode in the next couple of episodes. Thank you very much and see you next time. Thanks for listening to today's episode. You will find the links and resources in the show notes of this episode. If you would like to support the podcast, the most impactful thing you can do is subscribing to the show on any of the podcasting platforms and give me a review. This will help me to reach more innovators around the world and bring some of you into the show. If you have any question to the guest or want to engage with me, feel free to reach out to me on social media and contact me there.